Welcome back, everyone, to the Disaster Tough podcast, where we share insights into the big plays and right calls of leadership. We dive deep into the stories, lessons learned, and ideas that will help you in the field. Let's go. Welcome back to the Disaster Tough podcast. I'm your host, John Scardina. I am so excited for this week's episode for a lot of different reasons. I have really developed a great friendship with Bill and Mike, who are with RSET. They're the founders of RSET. They were doing really cool stuff with the Navy for 10 years, and now they've really expanded into other spaces, including emergency management and emergency services. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but I just want to give a big shout out to everybody in the field who had noticed that we kind of went offline for a little bit because we were responding to disasters and asking for more content and asking our thoughts and opinions on what's happening in the field. And I really appreciate that. And this episode really is an extension of that. We always try to push, innovation, bringing cool things to the field, and really identifying gaps that need to be overcome. RSET identified a gap for us that we can overcome through them. And really it's using virtual reality and virtual reality, like I would say, adjacent tools. They do some amazing work. I got to see it firsthand at Die Pop in Colorado. So big shout out to Ampapar for hosting us there and integrating them into our exercise. Who knew that we should, have virtual reality in our tabletop exercises? How much cooler is that? So with that, I want to invite, of course, Bill and Mike onto the show. Thanks, guys, for joining me. How you doing?
John, good to see you. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, great, absolutely. John. Yeah, so let's, you guys just got back from the UK just a couple weeks ago. You're showcasing all the cool stuff that you're doing. Before that, you were in Colorado with me. You guys kind of bounce all over the place doing some really amazing work. For the sake of my audience and for me, every time I say virtual reality, one of you reminds me that it's not just the goggles. You can see it on the screen. You can do all cool stuff, but you actually go out in the field and capture it, including urban warfare centers that you've gotten for, I believe is for the Navy at a Marine center or an adjacent field. So can you just walk me through, 10 years doing some really great stuff? At the core of RSET, what are you trying to get to? Like, what is the problem that you guys solve?
Absolutely. So about 10 years ago, 2014-ish, the Navy put out a call for the Small Business Innovation Research Grants called SBIRs, which was they wanted someone to come up with a solution for recording a space when a team would clear a building. Then 6 months later, they'd have to clear the same building. And they were really concerned about there wouldn't be anybody on the same team or any information passed down from one group to the other. So the idea was, hey, can we come up with a tool that will make a model real quickly of this space that we can prep in before going back in the next time? We saw that solicitation, responded. Ironically, we were at the beginning, we were going to build hardware. We were going to build our own scanners. We were physically building different type scanners to do this with. And after about a year into it, when you go through the first phase of it, we decided that there were so many scanners we saw coming online. There was a lot of them. We would find them out in the wild. They were there. They were like, why are we competing on the hardware side of this? Let's make a tool that will make use of the output of any of these scanners, then create your scenario in it. So we went back to the Navy with that solution, and they liked it. And they rewarded us with a phase 2 and a phase 3, and working for them for about 10 years on this. Yeah, it was a great project. Really proud to work with the Marines as we did for as long as we did. We ended up scanning a lot of, by the way, RSET is the Rapid Synthetic Environment Tool. That was the name of what they were asking for in the military. And that was the acronym that came with it. So we just went with it. That's what our tool is called, is RSET. So we spent a lot of time scanning mount sites. If you're familiar with mount sites, if you're not, they're military operations in urban terrain. So they're mock cities, the urban warfare, as you mentioned earlier. We would scan those sites, or they would scan them, and then we would let them use RSET as a tool to do exercises before we went in, before they went out the day before and did an exercise in the field. Small unit commanders kind of planned, here's where we'll be, here's what we're going to see when we come in. And then do desktop exercises like that, kind of the sand table, but on a computer. Mike, am I glossing over anything in that?
No, that's 100% perfect. We're basically meant to short circuit that kind of planning phase or after action review phase and put tools in the hands of people that don't have to have deep technical expertise when it comes to, playing with 3D scans or VR or software development. So it really makes the experts empowered to use this new technology to the best of their ability.
What the Navy really wanted was a no-code tool that um, that a young recruit with no 3D training experience could actually step in and create a scenario. So we made it gaming level in its operation. If you play Call of Duty, you understand what we're doing in this space.
How do you spell Doberman Emergency Management? EOP, OEP, HVA, HMP, Thyra, TTX, Drone, PDA. Whenever you need an expert, Doberman Emergency Management field experts are there for support. Contact an expert at DobermanEMG.com today. You got me excited when you said Call of Duty. It's funny enough that you bring up gaming because when I introduced drones to FEMA, now FEMA used outsourced drones and really Cessnas for data capture. But when I suggested, drones are team, and I finally got one, the word that came up a lot was game. Another one was toy, whatever. And I said, fine, let's do an exercise. And I brought it out there, and the same people who were calling it a game and a toy were the ones most excited to play with it. Funny enough, but they could immediately see the wins. I mean, it was just so much information readily available. I mean, we use visual cues all the time, and yet we were using points on a map. Like, why are we using points on a map when we can see it and understand it? And take that to a whole other level when you get the model and you can go into the building. I literally watched a video where you guys could go into the building and walk around the building and interact with the characters in the building, or whether they were enemy or they were people down, and how to interact with that from one of the mount sites. And it was like, man, like emergency managers and first responders, like they don't always have every resource available in the world. They can't build their own full scale city like the Marines can in 29 Palms or whatever. But what they can do is, if they have a model of a site and to replicate, and from an after action standpoint, oh my gosh, like hey, I'm trying to explain this to you. I don't really get it. Your decision making process doesn't seem that smart to me, or for whatever. Like, great, let me show you. Let's see if you could do something different, and whether that challenge or that positive feedback of building trust within organizations of the decision making process. I mean, there's so many applications of why we need 3D modeling, and the scanners are already there. RSET solves the software problem, but you guys have um, a talent that I haven't really seen from other groups. The talent to be able to speak my language. I have found by working with a lot of technology companies, and we get hired by technology companies to help them develop their product because they're missing a mark. But when I went to you guys, from like literally day one, when I met you at Sea Burning World Convergence, so big shout out to Gwen, he's going to be back on the show. Like all the way through, you're able to translate what I am trying to put out there as a responder or as an emergency manager. From that perspective at Dipop, we kept on wanting to do these really cool things, and like last second, you're like, "Oh, I think I can do that," and you guys like would literally do it, including and we'll get to it probably later. This ticker that we had going, this random ticker, and it was phenomenal. It made the exercise so much better. From the I guess the dual question, and they're very different questions. So maybe Mike or Bill, you want to take one or the other. The one is, how do you overcome the legacy person who sees new or innovative tools, technology as game or toys, right? How do you get away from that while still creating a game, because it kind of is in a really cool way? And then the very different question, maybe the other person wants to take it, is how did you figure out how to speak our language? Because you're able to do it somehow.
Well, we've had as you said, a lot of guys that have been in the field a long time, and then they start seeing it and they do look at it as new technology. I've done it this way 30 years. I don't need to change the way I'm doing.
Mm.
You find the right ones that are willing to adopt the technology, And also you show them real benefit, like from a nice after action review or something. We have a really good case where there was a nightclub fire here in Lexington, where I am, where the owner of the establishment was basically a hoarder. He had the entire basement of this place was just full of junk. And when a fire started in the basement, the firefighters made entrance through the bottom of the building and just couldn't see anything. Well, they can't because of fire and the smoke anyway, but they couldn't move for all the debris. And they had a firefighter get lost, couldn't find his way out in this building at all. Fortunately, he was able to make his way out of the building eventually, but he was calling Mayday at the moment. He was lost in this space. What they did is I went back in and scanned the entire space after the event. And then Mike and I recreated that fire. We turned the lighting convention down. We had flames. We had everything. And this firefighter was able to walk his recruits and his senior leaders through how he saw he got lost and what he was trying to do at the time and how he could understand. He said, see, I thought I was going into actual fireplace, and it ended up being, it was part of this bar that was burned out. And he said, I was trying to find shelter. And he said, I found this orange bucket. He was able to show in the skin. There's that orange bucket. He said, I started doing a circle pattern from that bucket till I found my way back out of the building. And to take that live to recruits was invaluable. And the senior management, while still looked at it as a toy or a game, as you called it, they were able to say, there's value on that.
Yeah, it could save somebody's life. I mean, legitimately, this is how I did it. And it's one way to tell a story. I mean, even right now, we're telling the story and I'm getting some cues, but man, to be able to see that, to be able to interact with that, in that environment. And I'm sure for the recruits, right, they could even put on the VR and say, okay, try to figure a way out of this space. What do I do? Well, try to find the orange bucket, whatever. And then just walking them through that. And so you start getting like the 3 different types of learning styles, the visual, the auditory, the kinetic, whatever, like everything that you want to create an immersive experience so that you could help the learning of the other person as fast as humanly possible, and including yourself, right? It's a great way to say like, oh, like I can recreate this. When you're talking about recreating disasters, I want to get to there's I think one with a forklift that you guys showed me. Before we get to that one, in terms of recreating a space, one of the coolest things I saw in Colorado was you walked us through unrolling the scroll. Like, Mike, can you walk us through, like, from like audience, like what are we talking about scroll? Can you walk us through that story? That's
that was a fantastic project that we got to be a part of with our time partner with the University of Kentucky. And there was a group out of, Bill, was it Italy that they were based in?
Well, they were in Italy when they're working. It was on the Vesuvius scrolls.
That's right.
From 79 AD when it erupted. But the scrolls that we actually got to have hands on were in France. They were actually gifts to Napoleon when he was occupying different places. So he got the gifts of these scrolls. I'm cutting you off, Mike, but that's exactly it.
No, you're good. You were more aware of a lot of the extra information around it. So anything that you want to add is completely fine. Interrupt away. But yeah, we basically were handed, we weren't, but we're given access to these scrolls that even the smallest of human touches would just have this, what looked from the outside to be a piece of charcoal, just crumble in your hands. Right. So there's no good way to physically interact with these artifacts without also destroying them. And so our approach and the approach with the team at UK was to take CT scans, slices of these scrolls, and pick up the writing on the scrolls as part of the CT scan, and then use computer imaging to unwrap that digital recreation of the scroll. So once you have the scan, you can sit there on the computer and touch it as much as you want without damaging the artifact. And so a digital unwrapping of that scroll allowed the team to actually read and translate the text and those scrolls that, I mean, without without this kind of approach, you'd never be able to recover that information.
And
So
funny enough, didn't it say when you unscroll or when you enrolled, it said something to the effect of "We're contacting you for your extended warranty."
I think exactly what it was. A grocery test is what they
Yeah,
found.
yeah.
Now, originally, these things were being thrown when it was they were working there. They originally we thought they were pieces of wood and throw them on the fire. Just when somebody cracked one open, and there was writing inside it, and they thought, oh, we need to preserve these. But to be fair, the real genius in this was the research team at the university did the digital unrolling of it. Michael and I were involved in setting up CT scanners. We're really good at scanning objects and making models of what we're doing. We also built a holder for it to go in because it was a very delicate, fragile piece. So we took CT scan data, inverted that, and created a holder to hold it in the CT scan because they were so fragile to be held in this micro CT scanner. And then we did a lot subsequent work with the micro CT scanner. I worked with the Hunley team, the Civil War submarine that was sunk, the first successful combat submarine. We worked with them identifying artifacts, actually working with CT data of the skulls of the crew, which is a fascinating project to work around. The buttons, moving sediment off the buttons so you can actually see other uniforms. We've done underwater work. That one was above water. We've actually done underwater scanning to scan objects, and we've done necrotic fingerprints in morgues. We've been actually to scan those and then digitally inflate them as opposed to using saline to inflate and get that fingerprint off of them. Again, we're just kind of coming in and creating a really cool scanning technique if needed, or helping you find what's the best way to get this model.
I have two thoughts. I literally got this is going to be I'm going to throw somebody under the bus. I won't say their name. I literally got a handwritten drawing of an org chart. Meanwhile, other people are blowing up bodies in order to see the fingerprint digitally. You know what I mean? Like the amount of what's capable for the field right now is so far beyond what most people think are that we're able to have access to, because they're I wouldn't say they're not curious, but they're so used to doing the way they've always done it, and they're missing the mark. They're missing a capability, whether it's recreating a fire scenario or otherwise. My other thought was you brought up artifacts and morgues. I saw a really funny post it was on Facebook to a police department, and the person said, "How long does a person have to be dead before the items in the grave are considered artifacts?" And it was basically like, please don't become a grave robber. Anyways,
Another thing we did with that scroll project, John, they had a bunch of fragments of scroll in Naples, and they asked a way to model those, their own trays. And Mike and I put together a photogrammetry scanner made out of a CNC machine. We just basically modified a CNC machine and put cameras on it, and then coded it to where it would go back and forth and do that. So they could just keep sliding these trays into the fragments, and they would get 3D models of those fragments.
my new goal with you is to figure out how we can get another contract with that same group and blow them out of the water so much that we get gifted one of those scrolls. So you can keep the digital version. I'll put it back on the shelf somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. What is that piece of charcoal back there? Let me tell you. Yeah. Maybe I'll just put a piece of charcoal back there and I'll tell people that's what it was. Man, that it really is incredible application. From the dynamic populations class, let's talk about that a little bit, because you're talking about innovation and capability and expanding what people think is possible. People already know that this class, it's called Next Level Emergency Management, the NLEM program, because we want to push, the innovation, what people think is capable. And really, it's a leadership course, but we've always tried to make it as interactive as possible. And huge shout out to Zach Borsch, who has really created great video content and auditory so that people feel immersive. But we've always wanted to integrate a virtual reality component. And for the sake of this one, we're like, hey, can you just come? Because it's really hard for us to explain everything we're trying to do. We just need something straightforward for this time. And so even with that, we were hoping just to get like a 3D version of a stadium where people could look around it. And I remember the first time you guys sent me the video, he had lights and sirens in part of the video. You had people running out. You had different decon areas. You had all this kind of interactive elements, and I was expecting basically to see a stadium that I could scroll back and forth on. And you guys were even like, I want to say complaining, but you're like, we could do so much more if we have more. I was like, this is already like so far beyond, like, nobody's using an interactive 3D model of a stadium. Let's be real. And so, like, even at that level, what would be considered basic for you is really far advanced for our field, which took it to that level that we were hoping to go to, at least for this iteration. And then I think it was like while we were actually there, I was like, man, like we've always wanted to show a ticker and not tell people what it is. And you both were like, yeah, we could totally do that. I'm like, yeah, next time, like when we do, like, no, we could do that like today. I was like, yeah, that'd be really cool. Like I was thinking like today as in like now, you know what I mean? Like the future is now. And then, like, you showed me, and I was blown away by it, and I've already talked a lot, but for the sake of the audience, one of the elements that really bothers me about training is that everybody always walks away, not always, but a lot of the times, like, patting themselves on the back that they saved everybody, and this is a counterterrorism, exercise where the terrorists did something. We're talking about a response operation at this point, and, kind of following Murphy's Law where, if things can break, they break. And so how do you react in that kind of scenario? Anyways, to help people feel a little bit more sense of realism, I've always wanted to show, and I'm really credit to Zach too. This is Zach's and I's kind of like brainchild, but we always wanted to put a ticker up in a corner to show people how many people would be dying in real time during the exercise. And we were able to utilize that with you guys because you were able to adjust the speed to make it a bit more random to match the style of the exercise. It's just not like a standard number, but it would come in groups and come in different flows. And um, that to me was like such a beautiful moment. And then the other part of that, while that ticker was going, um, you guys were able to look at the like basically the stuff that Ampapar had, and again in real time say, hey, they have smart boards. We can integrate the smart boards. We can update in real time. And so you guys were able to update the map as people were interacting with the exercise and be able to see what their decisions were going to do and how that would impact and using data. I originally just wanted you guys to play because it was your first time going, but you were able to add so much again in so much real time. And so it would be totally a miss of me to say like every single person who needs to do a tabletop functional full scale has to use you guys. Like they're not doing it right without you because you brought a capability of realism that nobody's using really until this year with us. So we're awesome. You're awesome. But legitimately, thanks for being, cool in real time and trying to come up with stuff in real time and being excited about the work. If you've been working on the Marines and or Navy for 10 years and you're doing all these different kinds of high level projects, which is exciting in its own self, how do you maintain the ability to keep the passion with the technical expertise that you have to keep going in real time? Like, how do you guys keep those two elements going?
Well, for me, interacting with people like you, John, really helps. Honestly, for all the events that we've been to, all the use cases we've had in the past 10 years, all of which are important and are the foundation of the software itself, I learned so much from just sitting and watching people try to visualize something that was not physically happening in front of them at DIPOP. And so watching them ask questions about, well, where are those ambulances, or where did we deploy this asset, or what is the current status of the event, that if you were responding to the actual happening, you'd be able to walk outside and get that information immediately, that you don't have that on a tabletop exercise. And so for me, watching people be able to immerse themselves in training in such a way that will eventually help them save more lives or help them protect themselves better or protect others better. That's all I really need. It was fantastic to watch people be excited about, like, oh, I can visualize this now. I don't have to use that part of my brain to make this perfect practice. So from the passion side, that's what drives me. Bill, I don't know if you've got any different.
Agree. The Diapop event was so much fun. We really enjoyed it, and it was a great group you had there too. So they were a lot of fun after hours too. I'll tell you that much. But so we enjoyed it. But getting people, getting their perspective on what they need, getting your perspective on what would be helpful. Mike and I've talked for years about we've been trained in this whole CAD 3D space, learning space, for years, and we see that sometimes not everybody has that complete 3-space visualization they have when they're standing somewhere, seeing that, oh, that's what that would look like from here. Being able to actually drop somebody in and say, oh, wait, the stadium's that far away and the rail line's that far away, and you would see this from that perspective, or that, it's exciting. And so getting excited about it, what does really fuel us is solving problems. And so when you come to us and say, this is good, but can it do this, is when we get excited about, well, yeah, we can make that happen,
John, you asked earlier on about how we translate, how we're able to communicate across multimodal kind of verticals, right? And everyone, regardless of if it's a CBRNE or fire or military or police or school system, everyone understands dollars and everyone understands time. And even if the training is completely 180 degrees different from, one to the other, if we can sit down and look at a problem that's happening in a school system and say, hey, this is really inefficient. Like, I know this is how you guys have done it from a legacy perspective, but there's a very easy plug and play solution to make you more efficient, save you money, save you time to do other things. Then that's ultimately, like Bill said, the problem solving and the offering of those solutions is a big driver.
You just named basically my number one frustration, honestly, in the industry, because I meet people like you, right? Like, I see the capability and I'm like, it is so much better. There are essentially 3 options for people. 1, let's talk about it and we can't really visualize it or whatever. And maybe we'll print off like a map. Maybe we'll print off something, and maybe it'll be a really big print so we can feel special about it. But it's less than 2D. I mean, it's technically 2D, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not very helpful. Then you have like what militaries has been doing for the last, 5,000 years with risk boards, giant risk boards, and moving little pieces around. And like, that's kind of like where, people think like, oh, okay, like we're doing something where we can really visualize it. And then there's you. That is like, Back to the Future meets, I don't know, AI meets, I don't know, freaking Terminator. It is so much further than what they're able to provide. It is the risk board, but now they're in the risk board. They're able to look around, and with so many more elements and adding elements in real time, even if you use the risk board thing where you're moving the tanks or you're moving the people, whatever they may be, and somebody says, well, let's add this new element to it, what would it do? They still have to add in quite a bit of a imaginary, like, oh yeah, like, because we can't build that right now, so we're just going to pretend like that went off. But you guys are able to do that not only in real time, but develop in real time, but at the same time add in just so much to where they can interact with that environment. And that's really what I want to hype on. So that's where I get frustrated, because I'm saying, hey, like, the capabilities there, guys. It can save you time, it can save you money. And honestly, I think that's one of the best pitches. Time and money. I can make your life more convenient. People don't want to hear that there's a new tool because they think they have to learn it. When you said new recruits have no, experience, I think, Bill, you said that. That's 100% right. Like, you can take anybody and they can see it, and they don't want to put on the goggles. Great, let's put it on a screen. use a mouse, like whatever it may be. And I think that's really special. From the Ampapar site, we had a multi-level experience because you brought in the virtual reality capability. They have a site with down trains and different training environments as well. And so they can bring in those physical assets and say, let's interact with this physical assets. For the physical assets they don't want to bring in and they don't want to blow up all their trains all the time, that's where you can come in. And so my big call out to everybody, and you might feel the same way, is look at RSET, look at virtual reality like a tool in the toolbox. You don't have to get rid of your paper maps. You don't have to get rid of your risk boards, but you can have all of it plus more with a virtual component as well. And so it doesn't have to be a black or white situation. Would you guys agree with that, or
Oh,
would you?
I agree completely. And it's a whole total immersion aspect of it where you actually become part of the scene. And to kind of go into something you alluded to earlier about the one court case with the forklift that we had. So the backstory on it is a gentleman was crushed by a 25-ton ingot that fell off a tractor trailer in the loading yard. And they were suing, obviously, the family for damages on this. We were able to recreate that scene from a 3D scan of the space. And we scanned the truck, we scanned the ingot, we used images from the accident. But what they needed was to prove that he knew he was going to die. They needed to prove that there's a whole different level of settlement that comes from he knew he was going to die in this moment. Well, how do you prove that? Because all that was able to go from this were 2 security cameras at a distance on the opposite side of the truck. How do you prove that? So we recreated a scene from everything we could ascertain from everything we saw in the footage and every bit else. And then we let the person stand in the position of the gentleman that was in the accident. And he could actually see, you could tell that the moment he was going to be there, he could see that ingot coming at him and he couldn't get away from it. Next level, and they settled large for this at that point.
Yeah. I mean, walking through that entire scenario, I'm again, you're talking about litigation, right? That's a big deal. We talked to the guy who's over fire for the 7/7 attacks in England, who had to go through the investigative process during the 7/7 attacks and talk about, hey, this is every prudent action we made, and they had to prove that it had to be prudent. Otherwise, it was going to be careers over, or maybe worse, jail time, that kind of stuff. That 18 months could have been solved in 18 days. You know what I mean? With recreating every scenario. Now, he did a phenomenal job with the resources they had. This is 2007, right? And afterwards. They did a phenomenal job in that response, and kudos to them for how they responded to that. But even from the perspective of, I think one of the terrorists communicated with the other ones to see if they had really done it or not, because they basically were about to chicken out and realized that nobody else was communicating back, so they must have done it. And so that's when he blew himself up on a bus 30 minutes after everything else. And so it wasn't necessarily like a multi-phased terrorist attack. It was all supposed to happen at the same time, but it came off like that. And be able to capture that data and trying to get that data back, I can only imagine. The other thing is they laced specifically in the subway, they laced it with their feces. And so even if they maimed people, they were basically disease, and they were trying to spread disease too. And so we met with the head of the emergency room, who talked about having to find foreign material and realizing that wasn't their own DNA, wasn't the DNA of the victims, it was feces from the terrorists. But like all that entire process, again, how do you walk through that kind of stuff? Well, you guys can do it, right? Like there's so many things that you guys could help out in that process. So many applications, right? I'm like, this is like the fanboy episode apparently, because I'm just like thinking left and right. But looking towards the future for RSET, you said you're working with the Marines. You saw the application with DIPOP with us. Hopefully you come every time with us. What is kind of like the next steps for you guys? And if you could help out the field, where are the ways that you want to help out the field the most?
Next steps for us are going to be, I think, more hazmat and CBRN type events, because we're seeing that it is a really nice fit, especially since we start with the scan of the environment. So you start with the actual space and then build within that space. Other things that we're actually doing at the moment are we have some international work that we're looking at doing, where we did our event in London last month. Again, we're trying to work with Amapar a little bit to see if we can't expand theirs a bit. So, that's it. And trying to get people to understand that the digital twins that are out there are where you need to start. You need to start moving into this 3D space, because that's what will make a difference. And it's going to happen. It's going to be adopted. It's just getting people aware.
Yeah, I mean, generational changes are always real in every service as well. And so, like, I think people are, um, I think the realization is starting to become negligent if they're not using these tools. Like, like people are getting fired over, the lack of using technology when they should have used technology, and now it's starting to become unacceptable. And um, I do think legislation is probably the lowest form of trying to get people to do cool stuff, and trying to keep your job. But the exciting version is, hey, do you think we could do this? Like, yeah, let's figure it out. Can we help out people more? Can we save lives? Can we teach recruits? Can we, from the whether it's teaching the recruit or going to the general public, whatever it may be. I've already pitched you guys to NATO. I'm doing an exercise with them next year, and I said, hey, we want to include them. And we should probably talk about that offline. But the reality is, it's like, I see your capability, and I think a lot of other people are too. And so, as we wrap up here, I'm going to give you guys a shout out so that you can point people to the direction where they want to work with you, and we'll put you in the show notes. And then we'll make sure that if we get any comments from us, we'll send them over to your way. But if people want to figure out how to work with you guys, what's the easiest way to find you?
Absolutely, rset.com, rset.com. You'll find our information there, how it works, some examples, and then reach out to us at any point. We're happy to work with you and find a solution.
And you're based in Kentucky. You can hear that accent all the way. Yeah,
you can. You can't help it, man. It's ingrained. It is.
All right. Other final thoughts? Anything? If they know where to go, why should they work with you? Your pitch.
We are definitely innovative. We will find you a solution. We're very adaptable. If it's not something that we have there, we will find a way to make it work. And we're just nice guys, man.
You are a nice guy. You know what? That's a good. You know what? Bill, you're a nice guy. Mike, you're working on it.
Oh man.
Mike, what would be your final call out to everybody who's listening in?
Man, it's that don't be scared of change. Even if, like you said, John, you don't want to get rid of your paper maps yet. This is such a phenomenal way to just be in tune with your space and the things that are happening with it. And yeah, don't be scared of coming to play some video games with us.
Hey, I saw it in real time, and I saw like the Doom, what I call Doom style. Everybody loved it. It was cool to see that, really. And I do hope we can have you guys back on some other time. Every once in a while, we get requests of like how to get people get started. And, college professor and student, that's basically how you guys got started and off to the running. And, we should have a conversation about that sometime. But for everybody tuning in, again, fanboy this episode because I like RSET. They are nice guys. And I hope that if you're doing training, you can start utilizing some of the work because it really is special stuff. And with that, we say the same thing every time: 5-star rating and subscribe. If you got something out of this episode, if you have a question for RSET or you didn't really understand some of the terminology because this space is new to you, send us a DM, send us an email. We'll connect you with those guys. Like I said, they are very nice, and so they can answer a question without a pitch. But if you're open and you have a budget, reach out to them because I think it's cool stuff, and we'll take it from there. Peace.